Welcome to the Panthers Movie Den, Episode 3. Today we'll be talking about 1993 Steven Spielberg film, Jurassic Park. A theme park created by John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, filled with revived dinosaur species, is toured by paleontologist Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, and Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern, and mathematician Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, who become both astonished by the scientific accomplishment at hand, but also concerned at the possible defects that come with the tampering of nature such as this. As the film progresses, the latter reaction is realized firsthand by the characters as the deadly dinosaurs are set loose. This movie is obviously a great achievement in special effects, in sound design, in establishing a blockbuster franchise, I think, even though Star Wars came out before this, but Spielberg with Jaws, which was a real first blockbuster, and then this, I think, are two out of the three major blockbusters between 1970 and the 90s.
So, without a doubt, this is 100% my favorite movie of all time. I make it pretty clear. Like right now, obviously no one can see it that's listening to this, but I'm wearing a Jurassic Park hat and Jurassic Park shirt. This movie I've watched so many times and I can't ever get bored of it. It's so mesmerizing. I know the scenes. I can probably say certain scenes word for word right now, but it's just so it's almost so magical. Like every time that I watch this movie, I feel like I'm a little kid again. And there's just so many elements to this that I'm going to talk about in a bit that really make this movie very special to me.
So this is not a good film. This is just you.
Wow, Nick.
This is
unbelievable.
I can't believe you're being 100% serious right now.
That I'm sitting right next to you right now.
It's a good film, but it's not amazing.
Oh wait, I legitimately thought you were joking.
I should have. But it's not that it's a good film, but it's not amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a spectacle. It's definitely like a spectacle, and still like looks like pretty good to this day. But like, that's all it is. It's a style over substance movie that has a good characters, but not great characters. Like, special effects that, look great. And sound design that holds up very well. But, the characters are just not that great. And it's just, the dialogue in general is just a bunch of just, like, science talk, and that's kind of it. Like, the whole appeal of this film is the special effects and sound design, which look great, but that doesn't hold up for an entire film.
I completely see where you're coming from on the character standpoint, because these characters, I mean, I'll admit as someone who loves the movie that the characters are not amazing on the basis of character development, because not really much happens with the characters, more it's what's happening around them. So I can see where you're coming from that point of view. But I think what I think of the movie in total is I think that all the elements of it, from the cinematography to just the story itself, I think is done very well, because, and I think this is where I disagree with you on the dialogue, because I think the dialogue is very well written and delivered also. And I don't think that it's mainly, I think that's actually something that sets apart from a lot of movies, that it's not a lot of science talk, because, I mean, it's that one meeting where they have a John Hammond at the beginning. But besides that, I think a lot of it is, and I think this is also intentionally done with the presence of the kids in the movie, the younger characters, to make it feel like there's some people that the viewers can relate to, and also that humanizes the main characters more than just paleontologists or doctors.
One scene that comes to mind is the part where they're all eating together in the table, and they're all discussing how ethical is this idea, and how Ian Malcolm keeps suggesting that chaos is bound to happen, and chaos theory, all of that. I really like that. Like, all that dialogue is pretty entertaining, because in most movies like this, it could be a snooze fest. But I actually really, really enjoy those dialogue scenes.
Don't let him talk. There's no reason. No, I want to hear every viewpoint. I really do.
Yeah, don't you see the danger, John, inherent in what you're doing here? Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun.
It's hardly appropriate to start hurling generalizations.
If I may, I'll tell you the problem with the scientific power that you're using here. It didn't require any discipline to attain it. You read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You want to sell it. Well,
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And I think they do raise interesting questions, and they do offer different points of view. Because, if you think about, bringing back dinosaurs, have this whole theme park, it sounds pretty cool, but then you start thinking about it, and then you're like, oh, well.
It's actually a really good point that I didn't realize till you just said it right now, because it's an obvious thing that reviving dinosaurs is not a good idea. And just before you even see the movie, a lot of people know what it's about, obviously, but when it first came out, I assume a lot of people knew also, especially since the book had come out and it was popular. But I think that's actually a really good point that you brought up, Gary, about realizing how it's not a good idea. Because, like I said, just on the surface level, obviously it's not a good idea. But I think the way that the characters interact with each other, it actually gives justification for it, and it makes you think. Because John Hammond is so passionate about this project.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are supporting him. And I think that's also a role of the lawyer there who's playing an intermediary. Yeah. And it's actually, that's a good point. I just didn't think of it before, how it makes you think beyond just the obvious.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, it does help you. It does bring up interesting questions, because there's different approaches. There's that's pretty cool. And this is terrible. Why are you doing this? And obviously, if you watch the movie, it doesn't go well. And I think this is a lot less scientific than the book. The book gets very scientific.
Yeah, Nick, if you want to talk about scientific, if you read the book,
has some.
I'm not attacking you, Nick. I'm just saying that if you read the book, it goes really deep in the dialogue. It's really dense.
There's a lot of scientific names and a bunch of terms and stuff that it can get very difficult to understand. The movie is much more toned down than the book when it comes to scientific things.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
But still, it's still. I think my main point of contention, is I guess just how. I think it's because I know this, I've known this film for a while, and, I know, clips of it, and I know it's a spectacle, and I know it's spawned a franchise and stuff, and I think it's just, I get where the hype is, but, there are some points where I also don't get the hype. There's, my favorite scene is, the scene where they first discover the dinosaurs. It says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." Mm-hmm. That is a fantastic scene, because that scene speaks for itself. But then there's, other scenes, the beginning where, Grant is just talking to,
it kind of feels like unnecessary build-up, is what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, maybe dinosaurs have more in common with present-day birds than they do with reptiles.
Look at the pubic bone, turned backward, just like a bird. Look at the vertebrae, full of air sacs and hollows, just like a bird.
And even the word raptor means bird of prey.
So My favorite scenes are probably the that one that you said, like the Welcome to Jurassic Park scene. I also I really, really love, like, I can watch this so many times, and I really wish I was able to see it in the movie theater, but I love the T-Rex breakout. And
Yeah, that was terrible. That when it came out during COVID, the anniversary was it during COVID? Oh no. Well,
No, I don't
25th
think
anniversary
so.
was 2018.
yeah, I don't think it was during COVID, but I know some theaters
I
were
don't know,
showing
something.
it anyway.
Yeah, I think just because I saw one theater had been showing it as an event,
I would have
and I was
loved to see it.
disappointed that I couldn't see it. Yeah.
Honestly, there's so many other scenes that I love, like the raptors in the kitchen, or the there's this one subtle scene in the beginning that I always found really interesting. It's the part where they're about to land on the island. Everyone's putting on their seatbelts, and Grant is just like struggling with his seatbelt. He's like it's not like it's two of the same parts for the seatbelt, so they can't connect. But then he just ends up tying it, and I think that's foreshadowing what happens later on in the movie, because as it's stated, all the dinosaurs are female and they're not supposed to reproduce. But as Ian Malcolm says, life finds a way, and they end up having babies. So I think that actually kind of foreshadows what happens in the rest of the movie, and that's like one subtle scene that I really like.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but going along with your pointing out of the seatbelt, I think that's something really good that the movie does. But correct me if I'm wrong with the outfits that the characters wear in the book. Aren't John Hammond and Ian Malcolm not wearing black and white? They're just wearing some other colors. But I think
I think that
I think in the movie it's good just to show the contrast between the two characters.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely.
And not just because Jurassic Park is one of my favorite books, and not just because of the movie. I just think it's a really good book, and it's actually really tense too, and it gets really graphic, also. So, at the beginning, have you seen The Lost World, Nick?
I have not seen any of the Jurassic Parks.
Okay, so The Lost World, it begins with this little kid getting killed by like these baby dinosaurs.
Compsognathus.
Is that what they're called?
It is.
Okay. Well, at the beginning of the book, it's the beginning of the book, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They go into very graphic detail about this kid getting killed by these baby dinosaurs.
Let's just say a baby and dinosaurs finding that baby.
Oh yeah, the baby in like a carriage.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it gets killed.
Yeah, the book actually gets very scary at points. Like, I feel like it's always kind of hard for me to get scared in a book, but this is one of the few that actually did kind of scare me. Like the scene with Dennis Nedry.
Dodson, we've got Dodson here.
And the
that one too. Yeah,
that one
is pretty graphic.
That one's pretty scary, and like it's just the way it's phrased too. It's like I just vividly remember the line saying like his head was in the jaws of the dinosaur and he was just hoping to die really quick. Like it's like creepy.
And even though you weren't a big fan of the characters themselves, Nick, do you think that they're well casted?
They were well casted, yeah. They were definitely the actors were good in their performances. It's not a performance thing; it's just a character thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I said it before, but I see where you're coming from with the characters, because when you look at it on the perspective of not you didn't really see it when you were younger.
No. I've never seen this
when you look at it through that perspective, it's pretty obvious how they don't really come across as very memorable, because they don't have very defining characteristics really, except for Ian Malcolm in my opinion.
But, who I think stood out as like the
definitely.
only great character.
Yeah, especially because of Jeff Goldblum. And I had also read that Jim Carrey had auditioned for the role of Ian Malcolm and was actually had pretty serious consideration for it. And this is before Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Truman Show, which those are his...
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting, but I also think Goldblum was the perfect choice.
Yeah.
But I just think Jim Carrey is a little too charismatic for that character. Mm-hmm. And because in the previous two movies I mentioned, he he balances like that mainstream personality that he has, that people know him like from Ace Ventura and stuff like that, with his dramatic chops, because he is a really good dramatic actor.
He really
if
is,
you watch those
yeah.
two movies, especially in the Truman Show, where it's balancing that his humor with his dramatic acting.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
So I think it works really well in that movie. But for a movie like this in Jurassic Park, I think that a version of Malcolm that I think if Carrie played the role, it would have been come across, I think, a little bit nerdy. I think, just because Jim Carrey, especially his appearance, it kind of comes across like that. Like even just his haircut and stuff like that. Like the character he plays in the Truman Show is just making me think of that, but in the form of Ian Malcolm. And there's just like speculation. I don't know how they actually would have played out with their interpretation of Malcolm if it was played by Jim Carrey, but I think that it would have come across as more of the mathematician than the person trying to convince John Hammond of the dangers of the park. Because Goldblum, he's almost a narcissist in this movie. You could say that he is a narcissist, but in general, he's just very self-confident, and I think that's the thing that Jeff Goldblum does really well.
There's another example. See, here I'm now by myself, talking to myself. That's chaos theory.
Yeah, for sure. I also heard that Harrison Ford was considered for Alan Grant.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
I think I'm really happy with Sam Neill because while I do love Harrison Ford, he seems more of like an action star, Indiana Jones, Han Solo. So Alan Grant is a paleontologist, not really an action hero.
Also, it's kind of really similar to Indiana Jones, because he's an archeologist,
yeah,
and a paleontologist.
Yeah, true.
It kind of, especially since the hat that Alan Grant wears in this movie,
yeah,
it would kind of be like, is he playing the same character? Especially since it's Spielberg, it would kind of be like, is he playing the same character? First of all, I don't know how true this is. Like, I'm 60% sure most of this is probably misconstrued in some way, just because people like to make things up. But I read that Harrison Ford, he turned down the role because he only wanted to work with Spielberg when he was playing Indiana Jones. And I don't know.
I think I heard that. I vividly remember hearing that.
I'm not sure how true that is, because
I don't know if it's true, but like
that could have been like one person on set who just said that Harrison Ford said Spielberg once. Could have been making it up. But I really do like Sam Neill as Alan Grant in this. And he really makes me want to check out more of his movies, because he is a good actor and he is the Harrison Ford type. And Alan Grant is a Harrison Ford-like character. But, so, yeah, the only other movie I've seen with Sam Neill was the Taika Waititi movie, Hunt for the Wilder People, which I thought he was really good in. And he also plays, like, this older, more cranky character. But I know he's in another John Carpenter movie. I forget which one it is. But I have been wanting to check out more of his movies, just because I think he's a good actor.
Yeah, I really loved his performance. I like that one scene in the beginning of the movie where he's explaining what a velociraptor is to that one kid. Yeah. He's like the kid's like, oh, it's just a 6-foot turkey. And he's like, well, can a 6-foot turkey slash you in the middle of your stomach? Yeah. Like, that's like my favorite Alan Grant moment.
That doesn't look very scary. More like a 6-foot turkey.
Turkey, huh? Oh, no. Okay. Try to imagine yourself in the Cretaceous period. You get your first look at this 6-foot turkey as you enter a clearing. He moves like a bird, lightly bobbing his head. And you keep still because you think that maybe his visual acuity is based on movement, like T-Rex, and he'll lose you if you don't move. But no, not Velociraptor. You stare at him, and he just stares right back. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side. From the other two raptors, you didn't even know were there. Because Velociraptor's a pack hunter, you see. He uses coordinated attack patterns, and he is out in force today. And he slashes at you with this 6-inch retractable claw, like a razor, on the middle toe. He doesn't bother to bite your jugular like a lion, say. No. He slashes at you here, or here. Or maybe across the belly, spilling your intestines. The point is, you are alive when they start to eat you. So, Try to show a little respect.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess the question that I have for both of you is Jurassic Park the only good Jurassic Park movie?
Yeah, I'd say yes. I have not seen Jurassic Park 3, though.
Well, I come from somewhat of a bias because I grew up with a lot of them. Jurassic Park was always like one of my favorite film franchises, so I grew up with a lot of them. Jurassic Park's best, hands down. Like, none of them even come close. I feel like some have, like, interesting ideas. I always found, like, The Lost World kind of interesting. I like the idea of, like, dinosaurs running through mainland. I don't know. It's just...
So then what are your thoughts on Jurassic World, I guess?
Jurassic World, I feel like it's an alright reboot. It's not... It's pretty similar, I guess, to Jurassic Park, except with, the park fully functioning.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same movie. They just pretend that it's not.
It's just more of like a modern blockbuster. It's not.
I think that Jurassic World is pretty mediocre. Then I think Fallen Kingdom is a disaster. That's it.
Like I just like the idea of like dinosaurs running around like in a modern setting. I think that's pretty cool.
That's what they're gonna do in the third Jurassic World,
which I'm actually pretty excited for.
Yeah, I think if they actually take a good route with it, and if they actually have dialogue that doesn't sound like it was written by a 7-year-old, then it'll actually be a good movie.
Yeah, because that's something I feel like that's a great follow up to Jurassic Park, because first of all you're contained in an island, but now it's like in a more of like a suburban area with houses and buildings and stuff. I think that's a good direction to go in.
Yeah, and I know that Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum are going to be in the third Jurassic World, but they're probably going to be in it for like 3 minutes. So they probably just want to get people back on board after a lot of people disliked Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, I haven't seen Fallen Kingdom, but I know that film just got...
Yeah. I wouldn't even bother really watching it. It doesn't really have a big impact, especially... The only reason I suggest for you to watch it is because it'll make Jurassic Park look better.
It will make Jurassic Park look like a masterpiece compared to that. I know that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now that you're bringing up Jurassic World, one thing that really makes me appreciate Jurassic Park much, much more than I already do is the fact that the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park feel like animals. They don't feel like they're biased to certain people. They don't feel like heroes. They don't feel like villains.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah. That is a good point.
In Jurassic Park, they feel like animals. They feel like they're just doing animalistic things. Like the T-Rex, it's not doing anything like with bad intentions. It's just being an animal. It's just
I think that in Jurassic
same
World...
Same thing with the raptors.
Yeah, I think that with the raptors, in Jurassic World, I think it was an interesting idea to have them be trained by like Chris Pratt and stuff like that. It is sort of an interesting idea, but at the same time, and I know it's in a world where they revive dinosaurs, but at the same time, it's like that doesn't seem very realistic to me.
Yeah, I mean,
if we were living in the sense of that reality, even then, I don't think it's very realistic. And I think for a movie like this, with a concept of just dinosaurs attacking people in the modern world, I think that Jurassic Park does that the best. Because like you said, Gary, it's just animals running around. And dinosaurs weren't exactly sophisticated. They're just hunting for prey. I mean, that's their lives.
Right. And, well, like, there's some, I guess, interesting concepts brought up in Jurassic World. Not really, like... I don't think it's executed well. It's like there's some interesting concepts, I think, like the raptor training and also like genetically modifying a new dinosaur species.
Yeah, which was just kind of stupid to me, actually.
To get like more attention, but it's dinosaurs. I think that's well enough. I don't think you need more. But I just like how more simple Jurassic Park is, and it's not. It's like, it's weird because it's a big movie, but at the same time, compared to the other ones, it's probably the smallest out of...
That's actually a good point,
yeah. It's the smallest out of the other ones because the other ones are very, very big.
Yeah.
And this one's, even though it's still humongous, it's probably the smallest.
Yeah, Jurassic World, like, again, just going along with the reality of the world itself, like, why would they make Jurassic World? It makes no sense. the theme park itself. Like, it makes no sense. So I think just in that case, it kind of makes the movie just seem less intelligent from the beginning. Because I think that when watching the sequels and the reboots and comparing that to Jurassic Park itself, it makes you see how much more Jurassic Park, at least to me, it makes Jurassic Park seem more intelligent and a cohesive movie than Jurassic World, where it doesn't really seem like it's going in a certain direction, kind of just saying we have all this and then see what the sequels do with it. So I think that's how a lot of studios do it nowadays, but especially with Jurassic World in that case.
One thing that it's kind of going back to animals being animals. In Jurassic Park, I really like how there's never really stupid decisions, because I remember this one scene from Fallen Kingdom that the hunter type character literally walks into the dinosaur's cage that he supposedly tranquilizes. He tranquilizes the dinosaur and walks into the cage to steal a tooth. And
Makes
then the dinosaur kills him and escapes. Like, nothing like that happens at all in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you, but I don't remember that scene at all. I just don't remember that movie.
And one cool thing too that I'd like to bring up is when Robert Muldoon, who's the hunter character in Jurassic Park, he doesn't do something stupid. He just gets outsmarted by the dinosaurs. He gets, like, he thinks he sees one, but they're really ambushing him. It's like a trap. There's another one waiting right next to him. And, like, I like that, because it's not like he was being stupid. He just got outsmarted.
Yeah, with that same idea, it's weird to say that the dinosaurs. It's weird to say that the dinosaurs are the villains in this movie, but they are the villains. Like, when you look at it,
it's like man versus nature.
Yeah, I think this movie does really well. It respects the animals and their intelligence, because even though we were saying that we prefer for them to be just animals running wild, which I still agree with, but I think that with the velociraptors, you need to show that they at least have some intelligence. And that's why I bring up the villain point, because I like when movies respect their villains, not just make it some just figurehead who the protagonist needs to defeat.
You can argue that that a lot of, like, the main characters are villains. Like, John Hammond could kind of be in the book, he was more of a villain.
But I think John Hammond is just such an interesting character.
Yeah, definitely.
You can see him as an antagonist, but you can seriously understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, it's his dream.
Yeah.
Like, he's always wanted to do this, so he's very reluctant to shutting everything down, and considering how much work was put into all of that, he doesn't want to just give up his dream. Like, it makes it really interesting. He's like, he kind of reminds me of like a Walt Disney figure, sort of, like with a Disney World type thing, but just a little more sinister than Disney World.
Because there's not a lot of movies where you see the main characters against a certain person, but you don't necessarily see the person who they're arguing against as necessarily an evil character.
Yeah, that's true.
So he, in some ways, is seen as a middleman in terms of chaos and reason.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously he's more of an antagonist in the movie, because he is a motive for the main characters.
In the book, I think he's definitely an antagonist.
Yeah, he's more of an antagonist in the book, yeah.
Like, in the movie, he's still kind of gentle and still
That's another thing I like about the movie, yeah.
Yeah, he's more gentle, more open to the opposing views. But in the book, he's very stubborn, and he's definitely more of a villain. And he also dies in the book, unlike the movie. And that's another thing, too. They really swap a lot of the deaths in the book and the movie. Like, I know that the lawyer, Donald Gennaro, Robert Muldoon, and they survive. But in the movie, they die. And John Hammond dies in the book, but lives in the movie. Ian Malcolm, I think, just goes into a coma, if I'm not mistaken, for the rest of the book, and he doesn't come back until The Lost World. In the movie, he obviously is still there. So there is some differences. And one thing from the book that I think would have been pretty cool to adapt, or at least see one day. I mean, we have one more shot with the next one, but hopefully it's done well. I really like the scene.
I wouldn't say one more shot. They're going to do this for like next 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, so they say.
So they say.
Yeah. Is the scene from the book with the raft, with the T-Rex? I don't know if you remember. Alan Grant and Lex and Tim go on this raft and T-Rex starts chasing them in the river. That's pretty cool. And then Alan Grant finds out that like the T-Rex can swim. Like, so I think that would be pretty cool to see adapted on screen.
Mm-hmm. I think just in general, the movie as a whole, it just holds up just stupidly well.
Yeah, it's insane. I watched it yesterday mainly because I just love the movie. So it's not, I don't need a refresher. Like I know this so well. But
and even though I haven't seen it in probably like a year and a half or something like that, I still need a refresher. I still remember it. I remember all the moments just so much.
Mm-hmm. The T-Rex looks phenomenal. Like I can't ever wrap my mind about how amazing it all looks.
Okay. The sound design has held up like crazy. That is held up. The special effects, not so much.
Really?
Yeah.
I strongly disagree.
There's points where it does hold up. Like the first the first time they see it like does hold up. But like then there's like points where like you can kind of see like it's like that the special effects are kind of not there.
Like you can kind of tell like that's manual. Are you talking about like more like the Velociraptor hand?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can kind of see what you're saying there, but I think that the T-Rexes and dinosaurs they look really good still to this day.
Yeah,
I disagree with you on that point, but I can see where you're coming from because it's so easy to see nowadays how common it is to have special effects. But back then it was so innovative, and I like how I'm talking as if I saw this in the theaters like when I was 20 years old in 1993.
I think like my main point of why I don't really like this is because I didn't see this when I was younger, and I was never really into dinosaurs. So like watching this now, and it's just like, all right.
Well, I'm the complete opposite.
I'm kind of like right in the middle because I didn't really see it when I was a kid. I kind of saw it when I was like, I was a kid, but like 14 years old, like something like that. When I saw it like first, like just sat down and watched it full length. Like I saw it in parts, but that was really like the first time I saw it in full. And I still loved the movie, and I was still blown away by a lot of parts of it. Even then, having like seen like Marvel movies and stuff like that, where the special effects. And how mainstream these special effects have been at this point.
Shark still looks fake.
All right, Nick, where would you put this among other Spielberg movies?
Let's see. I like Jaws. I haven't seen E.T. I'd say a bit lower compared to Spielberg's other films. That's really it.
I would have it personally at... I've seen 27 out of what, like 20, like 30 something movies that Spielberg's made. I think it was like 32 or 33, but I only have like 5 left that I haven't seen. But I would have it at number 2. And I would have Saving Private Ryan at number 1, which is one of my favorite movies ever.
That is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, and that's another thing with sound design. It's just incredible in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
But Jurassic Park I would have number 2. And it's still weird having these right next to each other, like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they're very different.
And then, not even that. Or I guess even, I didn't even think about that.
They're very different.
Well, I didn't even think about that, but you know what I'm about to say next. I had Jurassic Park in between Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. And that's another thing I was going to bring up.
It's depressing.
Yeah, I know.
And then there's Jurassic Park right in the middle.
And then I have The Terminal after that, which is like a slapstick dramedy with Tom Hanks. And then I got like Jaws. I got Jaws after that. But what is such an incredible thing is that Spielberg simultaneously made Schindler's List and Jurassic Park.
I understand.
They both came out in 1993, and that's just something that I've read that he went from set to set on the set of Schindler's List, or vice versa. He was looking at set plans for Jurassic Park, and going over specifics with funding and all of that stuff while on the set of a movie with a completely opposite tone and
That's
completely
crazy.
opposite crew, stuff like that.
Props to
I
him.
think it's just so impressive. And this is what you could say is his prime. What I would say was his prime, because I think that 3 of his best movies all came out in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention Hook, which isn't obviously on caliber with,
It is beloved by a lot of
those
families and
movies.
stuff.
Well, I do like Hook, actually. And that's saying a lot because I didn't see it when I was a kid. I saw it like 2 years ago. But I think Hook is still a good movie, actually. And then right after that, in like 2000, 2001 was Artificial Intelligence, which it's okay to me. But I just think that Spielberg, he's able to attract every single audience through every single decade that he's been through. So since the 70s, he's been making movies that I think can attract so many different audiences. So like when Jaws came out, it was rated PG, but obviously today it wouldn't be rated that. And that was before the rating system really came into effect. But but you could see that so many, like my parents.
Jaws is a great film.
Yeah, like my dad and my uncles, like they're Jaws is one of their favorite movies, and they saw it like when they were kids.
Yeah.
So you could see it then, as Jaws was popular among even younger people, and then popular among people who were looking at Spielberg as an up and coming filmmaker who just got better and better, in my opinion. Really.
Some other time we should definitely talk about Jaws.
Yeah.
I think so. One thing I also really want to bring to light is this is probably one of, if not my favorite, of John Williams' scores. Because it's so magical. Like the whole seeing
Oh,
a
the
dinosaur.
score is great. I will also
phenomenal.
give the score.
Like John Williams again.
I forgot about that.
It's amazing. Always. Every time I see the scene where they first see the Brachiosaurus, I just get goosebumps because the theme song plays along, and it just feels like that awe and wonder of seeing a dinosaur come back to life. And it's just so fitting with the movie. And I love how it goes from upbeat to menacing and it has one of the most iconic themes in cinema history. And also, as amazing as his score is, we could probably talk about this in a little bit, I really love how in the T-Rex breakout scene, there's no score. It's just rain and the T-Rex roar.
Yeah.
But
It catches you in the moment there.
Yeah, that's so. I'm gonna save that for a little bit because that's another big thing I want to talk about. But the score is it just feels so magical to me and very much nostalgic because, of course, like I mentioned a million times, I grew up with this, so it's definitely one of my favorite stores. Not stores. What am I saying? Scores. It's one of my favorite scores. It's up there with Star Wars for me and Jaws. So,
and I think it's just incredible how much John Williams has achieved over his career.
I know.
You just mentioned 3 scores, and those are all John Williams.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much John Williams has done.
I know.
He's done Indiana Jones. He's done Jaws.
Harry Potter.
I haven't even seen Harry Potter, but I know that it's a very popular score. Jaws, Star Wars, of course.
He won an Oscar for Schindler's List, and that has a really haunting theme.
Yeah, again.
It's weird because it sounds like the violin cries.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's crying. Like only John Williams can do that.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
This is serious.
I know. This really is the world's smallest violin. See?
No, that man deserves all the credit in the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, what I was saying before, that T-Rex breakout scene with no score really adds to the experience. It makes you feel like you're there.
And another reason why I wish I could have seen it in the theaters.
Because I was thinking about it actually yesterday when I was watching, how different this would be if there was music in the back. I feel like it would take away a lot from the intensity of the scene.
A lot of times directors feel that they need to put music there, even though what is not really necessary, because the tension that Spielberg builds up in that moment, it already shows what is happening. I mean, that's another
Yeah.
thing of showing, not telling, because even though you're obviously showing how the T-Rex breaking out, and the fact that there's no music makes you focus more on what's happening, and it centers the T-Rex at the center of the moment. And I think that some people feel that they need to put music there because they don't treat their audience like they can interpret what's happening. Because I think that pretty much everyone knows that when they see that T-Rex break out, they know it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need music to go to bum bum bum. Like you know what's happening, and you know the intensity of that moment and the impact it's gonna have on the rest of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you just hear the ambience of the rain.
Yeah.
And the thundering footsteps of it getting closer. And I love how the cup,
that was the thing I was going to bring up also.
Yeah.
That's just another thing that I had
ripples.
seen. Yeah, I had seen behind the scenes on that, where they were just trying to do it pretty primitively, and which is kind of funny when you look at it compared to the incredible animatronics that they had.
Yeah.
But they were just figuring out how to make tap on the bottom of the dashboard of the car and do things like that, or even maybe like pull a string or something like that to be able to do it. And it's so interesting how a little thing like that can make such a big difference to show what's happening.
My name is Michael Lantieri. I designed the special dinosaur effects on Jurassic Park. It was the rippling water in the cup inside the car. One day, Steven Spielberg called me from his car and said that he was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and his rear view mirror was shaking. That's what has to happen when the T-Rex arrives. As well as that, I want to have a cup of water, and I want to have the water ripple. That's the way we're going to see the arrival to the T-Rex. One night, I was up late with my son, and we were playing with one of my guitars. I had a drink that I set on top of the face of the guitar, and we were plucking and playing with it, and I noticed that the water began to ripple. So I took a guitar string and ran it through the cup, through the dashboard of the car, through the floorboard of the car, and tuned it. And when we plucked the string, the water began to ripple. When Steven saw the cup ripple, he had a big smile, and he just says, "That is now the arrival of the T-Rex."
Because you know it's coming.
Because you can have the character say, "Oh my gosh, it's a dinosaur," or you can just have something like that where it also makes you feel like, again, you're in the moment. It makes you feel like you're in that car. It makes you feel like you're being impacted by that T-Rex, and that you're feeling those stomps in the ground.
Yeah, and I also really love how there's this one shot where you see the sign that's like 10,000 voltages, and then you just see like the little T-Rex hand just grabbing it, like nothing, no shock, no anything. Like, I love that because, again, show not tell. They're not like, oh, the power's out. Like, you obviously know it's not on, and you know you're screwed. And then you just hear like the wires like pew, 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 like all like snapping, and then I love that so much. Little things like that. I also have to give a lot of credit to Lex and Tim, the actors who played them, because I feel like they do have really good reactions to seeing dinosaurs like trying to kill them.
Yeah, they could have easily been. They could have also easily just been whiny kids. Yeah, but they weren't.
And like the part where they're both stuck on under the car, it looks like they're in genuine pain. It's kind of like I actually know that I think one of the things that happened was actually genuine terror, because I think that scene when they're like flashing the light, and the T-Rex like looks at the like from the top of the car, the like mirror of the top mirror of the car wasn't supposed to actually break.
Oh yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, I heard that.
It was supposed to stay. So that must have been actually terrifying to see.
If Christopher Nolan had done this movie, he probably would have tried to flip the car on the children in real life.
He probably would. I could definitely see that happening.
So to sum up how I feel about this movie, I would just say it's one of my favorite Spielberg movies, and even though I said it before, but this is the first thing I'd say to someone who hasn't seen the movie, is that it holds up very well. And I think that the acting, combined with the directing, combined with just the look of the movie, I think it makes it a movie that'll last for a long time. And I feel like it's a movie that works on many different levels, from either just a regular drama, or if you look at it as a thriller, which I think it probably falls in the category of best. And also there are moments of where you could say it's a horror, but I don't think obviously it's a horror movie in total. I would say it's a thriller probably. And another thing, like I said before, of how Spielberg is able to attract so many different generations, I think this can appeal to both kids and adults, because I think adults can both respect this movie and kids can find the entertainment in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I have to say, like, any kid that watches this movie is going to be in a dinosaur phase. Like, I know I was. Like, every time that I would watch this movie, I would always get into this dinosaur phase. Or I would always ask for dinosaur toys, and always be drawing dinosaurs and stuff like this. It's kind of weird saying that this is like great for kids, because people do die in vicious ways. Sure. But like it's still very much appealing. I think.
Especially after reading the book, it makes you want to research a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting, and I've actually heard a lot of people say they've become like biologists and stuff because of Jurassic Park.
Sure.
Yeah, because of how like interesting. Just how interesting it is, like, and like I said, I think that's what created my. Well, not what I think. I know it's what created my obsession with dinosaurs too, because like every time, same thing with my little brother. Every time we would watch this, always get into a dinosaur phase. So it really is one of those movies that leaves an impact on you.
So this is, I guess I should rephrase what I said earlier. This is like I said, the effects, the sound design, and like just the scale and spectacle of this like still holds up phenomenally. But it just feels, it kind of just feels hollow and just not really well. It just feels hollow, and like stuff is good but not like amazing. Like the spectacle is there, but like the stuff that's holding it up is just kind of not. So it's like half there and half not there.
Yeah, I think, and I'm glad we actually unintentionally found a movie that we had differing opinions on, because we've been trying to find that, and then unintentionally came across this, which I'm glad happened. But yeah, I just never heard anyone say things like that about this movie. So I was actually interesting to hear, Nick, because when I think about it from that angle, it actually kind of makes sense. Even though I don't completely agree with it, but I can see where you're coming from, I've said before.
Yeah, like, again, breaks my heart that you think that way.
I can't believe you hate this movie, Nick.
Yeah, like,
why do you hate this movie?
How dare you?
You despise it so
have
much.
An opinion? Like, how dare you have an opposing opinion? Like, I can't believe you would do such a heinous crime.
Again, your favorite movie.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd like it. Like, I thought you liked it. I thought you liked it a lot, but I didn't think it was like your all-time go.
Yeah. Like, you don't know who you're.
We all know your favorite movie is Gotti, Nick.
So, what do you think? Well, Joe, what do you think? You read the book. What do you think is better, a book or a movie?
I think they're very on par, because when I first read the book, it was one of those books where I genuinely couldn't put it down. Mm-hmm. It was one of those books where I was really, and I think that people who don't exactly like the movie as much as big fans of it will gain a lot of appreciation from the book, or they might even like the book better. And I think that'll make them look at the movie from a different angle, but also just give them an added appreciation for the subject matter and the material in the book. Because I think it's well written, and I think that it's written on something that appeals more to adults, but I think the movie does, as Spielberg always does, able to add that entertainment in there.
Yeah, for sure.
That just makes it feel available to more people.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree that it was one of the only books where I feel like I couldn't put down. Like, I was really invested in reading it. And And mind you, I read this in middle school. So this is at a time where I was not a fan of reading. Like, I didn't really care much
it's
for
not
it.
exactly a short book either.
Yeah, no, it's like 400 pages. And, you know, obviously, like, middle school, I wasn't really into reading. So the fact that I was really, like, invested into it, like, in it, I feel it really says a lot about it. And I love the book and I love the movie. And there's some things that I like in the book better than in the movie. But it's vice versa. There's other things that I like in the movie better than in the book. Like, I like John Hammond a lot more in the movie than in the book. I do like, maybe because Jeff Goldblum, but I like Ian Malcolm more in the movie than in the book. But besides that, I really think I agree that they're really on par. Like, he did a good job. Spielberg did a good job at adapting the book, for sure.
All right, well, that'll close out episode 3 for us. Jurassic Park.
Bye. Life finds a way.